private papers in 1793. And again, 4 years later, Pinter helped found the New York Historical Society in 1804. And he was friends with a writer named Washington Irving. All right? You see the connections and why Irving was talking about Santa Claus. And an Episcopalian minister of Walloon ancestry named Clement Clark Moore. His dad, Benjamin Moore, right? Hebrew name, Benjamin. In January 1808, Manhattanite Washington Irving wrote in his literary magazine, Salamagundi, that the noted St. Nicholas, vulgarly called Santa Claus, of all the saints in the calendar, the most venerated by true Hollanders and their unsophisticated descendants. This may have given him an idea to expand on this story, and he did so in his satirical History of New York, which was published on St. Nicholas Day, December 6, 1809. In the book, Irving proclaimed that St. Nicholas was New Amsterdam's patron saint, and that a jolly old Dutchman nicknamed Santa Claus, who parked his wagon on rooftops and slid down chimneys with gifts for sleeping children on his feast day. John Pinter jumped on the St. Nicholas bandwagon and at his urging, the New York Historical Society hosted a dinner on St. Nicholas Day in 1810. Pinter paid for the publication of a broadside with an illustration of St. Nicholas. Over their fireplace hung 2 stockings, one filled with goodies, perhaps toys, oranges, sugar plums, and holy cooks. The other, a stick. Neither Pinter nor Irving associated Santa Claus or St. Nick with Christmas, okay? Christmas had been celebrated in the city since colonial times. But it was a time to fire guns into the air and drink. Or be merry. Let's be merry, let's get drunk, merry. Drunkenness and rowdyism prevailed on the streets. Pinter believed that Christmas should be a family-oriented winter holiday for polite society. We're going to talk about this before Santa Claus and what we think of Christmas today. It was already going back to Roman times. Winter festivities, a lot of pagan holidays, feast ceremonies were taking place in this time in Europe, and most of the time was about being merry feasting, enjoying yourself, merry, getting drunk. It had nothing to do with Christianity or so-called Jesus or Saint Nicholas, as is telling us right here. Pinter the Huguenot, aka Moore. I'm going to show you why I'm saying that. Who are the Huguenots? He wanted this to be a family-oriented winter holiday for polite society. So did Irving, who in his invention in 1819 popularized the idea that Christmas was to be celebrated with a cozy family celebration, complete with a large dinner. This is where Clement Moore, the Episcopalian minister, came in. In 1823, he published an account of a visit from St. Nicholas in 1823, commonly known as What's the Night Before Christmas. He intentionally shifted the arrival of Santa Claus from the evening before St. Nicholas Day, which few New Yorkers celebrated, to Christmas Eve in hopes of creating a family holiday. Of course, as everyone knows, 8 tiny reindeer pulled Santa in a sleigh, and Santa gave appropriate presents to children and adults. The poem has remained one of America's most popular poems for almost 2 centuries. Still, there was a problem with Santa that needed to be cleaned up. Pinter's image of Santa Claus was dour and depressing. It really wasn't kid-friendly. It was the illustrator Thomas Nast. We're going to go over his images as well. And Thomas Nast were creating these images, right? Advertisement, these propaganda of Santa Claus. And that's the image we see of him today. Thomas Nast was a German immigrant, all right? We're going to read he was a Palatine. He was a Palatine. Remember what Benjamin Franklin said about the German Palatines. We're going to go over that in case we don't remember. So the Germans were also bringing their winter feast, Father of Christmas, Father of Winter, old time celebrations and feasts and pagan holidays and ceremonies, whatever you want to call it, with them as well to America. This was all combining, people all meeting each other. They're like, yeah, and they created this whole Santa Claus, right, out of St. Nick. They combined all that stuff. We're going to keep reading. He was a German immigrant who arrived in New York in 1850 who created the modern image of jolly old St. Nick, which first appeared in Harper's Weekly in 1862. We're going to see that. By this time, many Americans celebrated a less rowdy Christmas, complete with presents for the children and a family dinner. It was the New Yorker's view of Christmas, complete with Santa Claus, reindeer, stockings, and presents, that dominated American celebration after it was declared a federal holiday in 1870. Regional sources of Santa Claus as an appropriate salesperson, and by the early 20th century, Santa Claus was a popular fixture, enshrined in American commercial life to purchasing and giving gifts. Today, Americans do everything from street New York friends. John Business, Washington Irving, and Clement Moore, who conspired to domesticate Christmas on a day of drunkenness with family celebration. NewYorkPublicLibrary.org. This is the website. It says here Santa's New York Roots by Megan Margino, Western Division of the United States History, local history young. Stephen A. Fortunately killed it. And here goes something that business says here Santa's the Charlie Bloomingdale's image. Alright. So this is what they're talking about the advertising. Santa Claus became a good salesperson. Look at that. He became a great salesperson. Now remember, they were telling us on the History Channel website that this was all based on Saint Nicholas, right? Saint Nick. So we're gonna dodge the hijack. So again, Thomas Nast, one of the ones who brought the image that we know of Santa Claus to us. You know, he was the one. Right, these are some of his drawings of Santa Claus. These are some of the oldest depictions of Santa Claus in America. Right, but we're gonna touch the hijack big time when we're talking about Saint Nick, especially. Because when we're talking about, you know, this is what we're talking about right here. Saint Nicholas, all the old depictions of Saint Nicholas are the so-called black man, and it's not just him. Many of the saints, many of the so-called early Christians are depicted like this. These are all Saint Nicholas right here. Alright, these are all Saint Nicholas right here. Statues of him. Here's a picture of black Saint Nicholas. You can't ignore the original images of Saint Nicholas and say we're blackwashing, because that's what is a fact. He was depicted originally. This is Byzantine art. This is Saint Nick right here. Here we got Saint Nick again. Russian icon of Saint Nicholas. Saint Opete. It says here Saint Nicholas, the wonder worker. The Hoshedria of Smolensk. Saint Nick. Attribution of the icon of Nicholas, the wonder worker. Saint Nick. Alright, this is Saint Nick right here as well. Says here the icon of St. Nicholas of St. with 14 scenes of his life of Assumption Cathedral of the Ryazan Kremlin. 14th century Ryazan Historical and Architectural Museum preserved from the 1300s. St. Nicholas, right here, the generous guy who gave all his inheritance away to the saints, right? Saint Nicholas, Sinterklaas, we're gonna see Sinterklaas came depicted as a so-called white man, and in Dutch tradition he was pulled around with a so-called sword, or sword TP, and many other things we're gonna see. But this is Saint Nick too. He was also a so-called black man. That's the hijack, okay? The icons of Saint Nicholas, the wonder worker, all depict him, the original ones, as a dark-skinned man. So back to the New York Public Library website, right? Santa's New York Roots. Let's not forget the roots, though, of Saint Nick. Today, there's no question about the identity of the jolly red-suited white-bearded, toy-carrying, purple man in Santa Claus, of course. Throughout the mid-19th century, century, however, then again, this famous gift giver was only just developing, okay? Just developing, huh? Saint Nicholas, Belsnickel, Father Christmas, and the Wild Man. While all of these cultural figures are symbolic of the holiday season, none are quite the jovial character we know and love today. So how was the iconic image of Santa born, alright? So they're talking about, alright, we already went over St. Nicholas, right? Belsnickel, also known as Belsnickel and Sico, or Pelsnickel, right? That's another way. It's a country fur plot Christmas gift bringer figure in the folklore of the Palatinate, right? The Germans. Remember who was Thomas Mann? He was a Palatinate German. The same people Benjamin Franklin was complaining about. Just real quick, we're gonna get into all this historical stuff now. Before we continue, we're gonna come to this book real quick, History of the Conquest of Spain by the Arab Moors by Henry Colby. This is from 1892, you guys can see. We're in archive.org. Again, that's History of the Conquest of Spain by the Arab Moors, with a sketch of the civilization which they achieved in Europe by Henry Colby. Volume 2, 1892. This part right here is especially for all the new people. Right? What is a humanist? I got several videos on the humanist that is very thorough on information and their history, what they went through, if they're involved in the Americans in colonial times. And who are these people? What is their ethnicity? What is their genealogy and ancestry? History. Now we're gonna start here. Page 445 of this book is literally telling us about Columbus. Now he's the Christ bearer. That's what his name means, the Christ bearer, and how he left